This is a discovery I made some time ago. I really came across it by chance. How you can make such fantastic bushes as you can see here in the background grow for the model railway, in my case for the N scale, i.e. 1 to 160, so you can make them grow by themselves. Normally you put a bit of flocking there, stick it on, and the job is done. And that looks, well, more or less real. But then I discovered by chance that you can achieve great results with a certain type of flockage or flock material and a certain adhesive. And I actually only managed to do it with this one type of glue. Bushes actually grow in this context, i.e. in the interaction between these flakes and the glue. We can see it here in the background, and we can always see the cloud that rises. It's a cloud of smoke. It can't be smoke. It doesn't matter. In any case, this cloud that rises is not particularly conducive to good health, I have to say. So I always put on a mask when I do this. A mask that I have here anyway, that is when I'm doing something with the 3D printer or whatever. But some people still have the masks from, well, I'll say 3 or 4 years ago. And they can also put them on. That works too, of course. The tighter the whole thing is, the better, because it's really not a nice odor. That's important to realize in advance. I also have an exhaust fan here in my room. It always hangs over the top, so that it can extract the odor directly. I hadn't used it for a day, and I was sitting here in my man cave, my den, and I did this and stuck the whole thing in. And yes, it even stung my eyes, so you really shouldn't breathe it in directly. You can see from the picture that not much happens, but when the glue actually starts to bond with the bushes or the flocking, it triggers a chemical reaction. That must be the case. I'm not an expert or chemist and would never presume to say anything about it, but we can see it quite clearly here now. And this smoke is quite nasty. I've just asked about it. If you know, write it in the comments, and yes, it's very, very acrid. You know when you can smell super glue sometimes? When it gets hot. And it gets very, very hot. In fact, you shouldn't touch it. Not so much that you burn your fingers, but you should avoid it. Everything is fine with tweezers, everything is fine. So it's not like you're in danger of catching fire. There won't be a fire on your model railway layout. That won't happen. But you have to be a bit careful. It's also important when you do this. I'll come to the ingredients in a moment. It's also important with the whole thing when you do it to drizzle it in generously. So put a few drops on top to perhaps be stingy and say, no, come on, I'll just put a little on there, that's enough. No, it's not enough. You have different options. You can also see it in certain of my pictures. You can always see, how should I put it, the white glue underneath, especially in my scrapyard. And you can also see the white glue underneath that hasn't hardened or hasn't hardened yet. Otherwise, it's always very, very good. But if you put white glue on these bushes, for example, which is why I came up with a kind of super glue back then it's all, well, what can I say? It doesn't go in properly. It doesn't work properly, even with other bushes, and that's why I switched to super glue at some point. I said, okay, just use super glue. It doesn't matter whether the bottles cost about €6 or $6 or not. Our model railway is a hobby. And they are so expensive, it's not worth making anything out of it or being stingy, and that's why I even have 6 of these bottles in my cupboard here, because you do need a bit more. So you should actually let the glue run into the flocking and even let it run through, so that the glue can actually stick to the bottom of the model railway plate. I've also sometimes had small bushes come off after they were dry. Because it wasn't enough, then of course you can always put it back in place somewhere with white glue. Now let's move on to the flockage. So this is a flockage that I actually bought in the Far East, in China, directly via AliExpress. I'll link you to the products below the video so you can click on them directly and get there. And you can order it, and yes, I'll link you to the glue too. The link will take you to Amazon, and if you click on it and buy it, I'll get a few cents commission for it. It's not that it's my reason for the video, but if you want to or can support me with it, I'd be grateful and it won't cost you any more. Well, you know how it is. That's not a problem at all. Then the flocking, as I said, bought from the Far East from AliExpress. That was also a random purchase, so there are different colors, a little more yellow, a little more green or blue-green. It depends on what you want somewhere. So the color definitely changes when you work with the glue. If you treat it with it, it doesn't stay as dark green as you see, but changes to a light green. And I use a lighter green. I have a beige color here. What is this yellow-green color or something like that? Then it becomes even more yellow-green or whatever. So it's getting lighter, it's definitely getting lighter, and that's why I always paint the bushes with a brush at the end. I usually use an olive green color or something like that. Whatever you like, whatever suits you a little. And then you can always sprinkle the bushes a little from above. This is the glue I use here. As I've just said, this is from the Amazon link, so I've tried different ones. Well, I didn't look for it directly, it was really a coincidence. I've tried different ones, and this glue actually works. And in my experience so far, it only works with this glue. I don't know what's in it. As I said, and I don't measure it for myself, which is why I mentioned the respiratory protection earlier. That's better, you should definitely do that. Then I would say, with these pictures, I would say goodbye to you for the week. As I said, that was a video that I promised to bring you a while ago. See you next week. I would be delighted if you would watch one of these two videos above. If you click on it, you'll please the algorithm. Then everyone is happy, and everyone is happy. I thank you in any case for watching. Take care until next week.